Mariana Oliveira to our Global Conversations. We are absolutely delighted to have you, and you're probably the most physically proximate. I wish we could do this in person, since you're about 6-7 miles away from me. So hopefully, when all of this is over, you and I can get together and have a cup of coffee or a glass of wine.
I would love that so much.
So tell us about you. Tell us about your background. You studied, I noticed, at the National Ballet of Cuban. I've always wanted to know what that school was like and what studying there is like.
Oh, well, I'm originally from Brazil. I started my studies with the Royal Academy of Dance in Brazil, and then later on in London. Then I did a short traineeship with the National Dance Company of Wales, which was my first connection with contemporary dance, and it was like a life-changing experience for me. Then I went back to Brazil and started the training with the National Ballet of Cuba in Brazil. Yeah. Then my teacher, which was my mentor, Ibis Montoto, she left and went to Miami to work as associate director of the Cuban Classical Ballet of Miami, and that's when I was invited to join the company. I was 19 years old, and I stayed for one season, and it was kind of clear to me that there was something missing. So I decided to go to New York, and I was exposed to a lot of art in general. I'm a huge art nerd. And I was exposed to visual arts and a lot of different music, a lot of jazz, and it came to me to somehow become a choreographer. And at that point, I didn't have a lot of connections and didn't know how to go about, but instead of waiting for someone to give me an opportunity, I decided to open my own dance company. And it was very independent, and I was kind of fitting to every role that a company has, from artistic to executive areas. It was called the Union Project Dance Company, and the mission of the company was to connect dance and other art forms, especially visual arts and music. So some of my early works were made with original composition, and we had musicians on stage, either set up as a small little orchestra or interacting with the dancers. So it was a very interesting moment for me to explore and try new things and fail and try again and all of that. Then later on, I presented some of my works at the Jacob's Pillow Dance Festival, which was a very important moment in my career. And after that, I decided to kind of branch out a little bit. And I've been a freelance choreographer since then, and creating works for several companies across the US.
So one of the interesting things to me is your reference to being a huge art geek and a huge art nerd, because in listening to so many dancers that came up through the classical method of training, they literally don't get out much.
You know, my parents are teachers. My mom is not an artist, but she loves art. I mean, since we were little kids, my sister and I were both in dance. My sister is a dancer with the Monterey Ballet in Mexico. And we've been exposed because of her to everything. I remember being 10 years old and listening to Billie Holiday and knowing about Edith Piaf. And I'm I get obsessed about things. So when I find something that I love, I want to know everything that I can.
So tell us about the first piece that you choreographed.
So the first piece that I choreographed was for my company. It was in Miami. It was called La Demoiselle, which was based on La Demoiselle d'Avignon by Pablo Picasso, that beautiful painting that you can see in New York. It was so beautiful, and I decided to make something about that. Also, we had 14 musicians on stage.
Oh, wow.
It was a very interesting, very independent type of setup. But yeah, not my favorite piece, of course, but I think it was very important.
What's your favorite piece?
Well, it's hard to say, because I think what makes a piece special is the people that you work with. And I've been lucky to work with amazing companies, amazing dancers, and having a good team around me with light designers and costume designers. And those people are so important to me. So I would say My latest work, Blue Jay Eyes, created for Carolina Ballet. The music was Heitor Villa-Lobos, which is a Brazilian classical composer. And I collaborate with Philip Davis, which we worked in the past with Death and the Maiden. And he created visuals for the piece. And it was special because I think it was the last piece I worked on.
Sure.
Everything changed in the world, so.
How are you spending your time during quarantine?
I was for a long time without taking ballet classes. So I've been back taking ballet classes, and I've been loving every minute and looking at a lot of art. So I've been trying to stay active as much as possible.
And pull things from different sources. You referenced earlier the freedom to play that you had with your own company and failure. Failure is something that I think about and talk about a lot because I keep failing over and over, and then I just keep going. Can you talk a little bit about failure as part of the choreographic process?
You know, failure teaches you how to do different things, how to look things in a different way. And even pieces that are not necessarily successful, there's always something positive about it. And again, it's because of the people that you're working on. Sometimes it's not the best work that you could have done at the moment, but you did try your best in that moment. So to me, that's already successful.
I'm going to flip that question then, and I've asked a couple of other of our interview subjects this. When did you know when you made a success? Or what do you consider a success? And has your bar changed for what a success looks like?
Well, it's very hard to know if it's successful or not, because who determines that, right?
Yep.
Art, it's such a subjective matter that it's like food, right? Like some people like spicy food, some people don't. And that's what art is. Some people will love what you do. Some people are not going to feel connected at all, and that's fine. You know,
very healthy attitude, because I think so often women look for external validation. I know I do. Now that you've had multiple commissions, I can ask this to you. What do you look for in a company? Is there a synergy? Is there a feel? How do you decide where you're going to work, and what is the best working relationship for you with a company?
I'm a workaholic, so I never say no to work.
Okay.
It doesn't matter which company you work, you need to do your best regardless. And what's important to me is resources, right? And having the proper tools to be able to create the works that I'm interested in sharing. So the people behind, the backstage people, I think they are one of the most important people. It's the light designer, the prop designer, stage manager, costume designer, all that group of people. If we're all connected, then the piece to me will happen and it will convey. And you know, I love dancers so much, but I look towards those proper resources and those tools so I can actually feel a little bit more of freedom in terms of what I can create or not.
What else is coming up for you in the next year, 2 years? I know we've sort of had a bit of a halt. Are you still creating?
I have a few projects, but I actually supposed to have a project with Chicago Repertory Ballet, which was supposed to premiere in the spring and it got pushed to the fall. This piece is called Immortal Beloved, and it's based on Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. And it was created for the celebration of 250th anniversary of Beethoven, and I was super excited to share that. So I'm hoping that that still happens. And I'm back at Carolina Ballet for next season, which I'm very excited with Pagliacci, which is based in opera, and with the music of Charlie Chaplin, which is really cool and exciting, different music. And it was created for Milwaukee Ballet, and now it's back on stage for the next season with Carolina Ballet. So
since you're redoing a piece, tell us about that. Do you go back and completely reconsider? Do you just tweak a little? How do you look at the works that you've done and now are going to stage again?
To me, it's important to keep the piece as it is, as it was done. But at the same way, I want the dancers to feel some sort of freedom to make their own. I don't want them to look into the video and copy. I actually don't show them the video up to the last minute when everything is already set, because it's important to not make dancers copy what was done.
Now, since we're in quarantine, we have perhaps the opportunity to pause and think, do you have a dream project, a dream company? I mean, if you could will it into being.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I would love to do a narrative ballet. I love the fall season, and I would love to make like a spooky ballet for the fall season.
That would be really fun.
I would love to do something like that. So that would be a dream project.
That sounds actually really fun. I would love to come see it. All right, we're going to switch and we're going to do the lightning round. So super quick, just fun. If you want to say pass on anything, say pass. Here we go. Favorite dance memory?
My first performance, I remember I was 4 years old, and I actually have a very clear image of doing the bows and looking at the audience and feeling that energy. And I remember kind of crying a little bit because it was so emotional for me to get that energy. And it's the same energy that I feel every time I put up a new work.
Interesting. At 4 years old.
4 years old. I remember that very clearly.
All right. Favorite ballet?
Ooh, Rite of Spring by Pina Bausch.
And your favorite walk-on song?
Well, I listen to a lot of Amy Winehouse, which is not necessarily very cheerful, but I love it. So Back to Black by Amy Winehouse, which is like super dark.
But it's so great. It's so great. And her voice, oh my God.
I mean, yeah, she's amazing.
Sweet or savory?
Sweet.
Okay. Anything in particular? Anything from Brazil we should know about?
Oh, from Brazil, oh my goodness. There's like a little fudge truffle. It's called brigadeiro.
Okay.
And I love it. It's like a chocolate fudgy little truffle ball thing.
Which I'm sure just, plenty of sugar. You're just ready.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love it.
All right. Post-pandemic, you have to find one for me somewhere in Chicago. And
oh my God, I will. I would definitely.
That would be so much fun. Broadway or West End?
Broadway.
Okay. Dream travel destination post-lockdown?
I mean, it's point any place.
I know, right?
Right? But I would love to go back to my country, especially in the northeast of the country. It's called Bahia. It's this amazing place where there's amazing food, amazing music, and the energy is just so great there. So I would love to go there.
It's going to happen. I know it is. La Bayadere or Le Corsaire?
Ooh. I will pass. Those are my least favorite ballets.
Pass. Give me then a really well-known sort of classical rep ballet that you.
Oh, Swan Lake.
Okay. Guilty pleasure.
Oh my goodness. I'm gonna say actually Brazilian soap opera. I'm a huge fan of that.
Oh, fantastic. Romantic classical tutu or pancake tutu?
Romantic.
Okay. Palais Garnier, Royal Opera House or Metropolitan Opera House?
Royal Opera House.
Rubies, emeralds, or diamonds?
Rubies. This is very therapeutic.
Adagio or Grand Allegro?
Adagio.
Favorite city?
New York City.
Bar or center?
Bar. And holding tightly there.
Beach or mountain?
Beach.
Graham or Cunningham or neither, something different?
Graham.
Okay. Point shoes, ballet slippers, barefoot or something else?
Point shoes, not for me, from the dancers that I work with.
Okay. Rehearsal or performance?
Both. They're both special. It would be impossible to choose one.
Let's go big and talk about the culture of ballet. I know that you approach it not directly from the classical, but you are in the ballet space. What do you think needs to change in ballet culture? What do you think should be done, and what can Dance Data Project in specific do to move that along?
Well, something that I'm very passionate about is being a female choreographer in the male-dominated field. We're often underrepresented, overlooked. There are many things that could help with this change. One of them would be how the programs are being created. I feel like some companies create a program where, you know, if you have a program with 4 different pieces, it should be a balance of 2 female choreographers, 2 male choreographers. Another issue is rehiring women, because I think there are a lot of companies that are making a statement by creating a full program with only women, and I think they're very important and they should be done more often. Commissioning a woman in one season, one woman in one season, and then spending the upcoming 3 seasons with no woman involved, it's not supporting women.
Yes.
Right?
I just listened to an interview with Megan Fairchild and Ashley Bowder, and they talk about this, and something I've talked about before, which is repeat commissions. Because even Balanchine said you have to make 50 ballets before you make a really, really good one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are a lot of women out there making interesting things that we actually sometimes don't even know about. The art organizations, ballet companies, dance companies are the ones for commission. That change comes from those organizations. Because
so we're doing what we can. Our
right.
theory of change was, I think, kind of naive, because I thought once I would get the numbers out there, people would look at them and go, this cannot stand, this is ridiculous. And yet I'm not necessarily seeing that.
It's easy to go into a comfortable position where, okay, I've done this before, I commissioned this guy before, it will sell, let's do it. It takes a lot of effort to make a change, and I think it's missing effort. It's missing, okay, we're actually going to trust those people that they are going to put up a nice show, a good show that they are capable of.
So one of the things that's come up, other than opportunity and repeat and resources, which you mentioned, which I think is such an incredibly important point, mentorship. Have you had mentors? Have you had people to critique your work, to cheer you on, to say, you know what, I think you could do a little better in this section?
Not so specifically, but I had a few people who actually opened the door for me and said, just go and do it, because I think that's what opportunity is. And I had a couple of people that gave me opportunities. I think the first person that I could mention was Alexei Kremnev in ballet. He gave me my first commission, was Death and the Maiden, and it was very interesting because it was like, okay, you have your hours, you have your dancers, make your stuff. And I think that's what supporting is allowing someone to be themselves. And then Devin Carney from Kansas City Ballet also opened many doors for me, and Isalma Raphael from Carolina Ballet, which gave me this gift, which was Blue Jay Eyes, which is a very special piece for me. Which interesting, they're all men. It's a very interesting thing, but I'm very grateful for all of those people.
We have a little extra time, which is great because you've answered so quickly. I have a more technical question for you that I always like to ask, which is, what do you think it would take to get you or a choreographer from doing, say, a pas de deux, working with 4, 6, 8 people, to a main stage, full company, evening length ballet, which is, you know, the pinnacle, and we see almost no women get to that point.
Right. And I think it's about trust and it's about resources. I mean, it's we don't get that resource to make a narrative ballet. I mean, you can't make a narrative ballet with a black background, 2 light cues, and no costume, right? You need things around you to make that happen, to tell a story, to convey a story. So it's honestly who is holding the financial support in those art organizations and how those people want to change or not.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, I think in some ways ballet is facing timidity and lack of imagination. I want to thank you so much. It has been such a delight. We will get together and eat Brazilian candy when this is all over.
Oh my God, I'm going to send to you. I'm going to send you those candies.
It sounds fantastic. Thank you so much. It's been
Thank
such
you.
a delight.
The pleasure was mine. Thank you.